Dr. Juu Park stood at the control panel of the Hyperion *, her hand steady as she made the final adjustments. This ship was special, humanity's first vessel capable of traveling through 7 dimensions. After 30 years of research, the moment had come to test their theories. The crew worked quietly around her. Everyone knew how important this day was. Commander Taho Kim watched his screen carefully before looking up. "All systems are ready," he said. "The dimensional anchors are holding steady." Juwu nodded. Humans had been traveling between stars for 50 years now, but they were still newcomers in the galaxy. The older alien races, like the Luminary Collective and the Voidborn Conclave, treated humans politely but not as equals. They had millions of years of history and technology humans could barely understand. But the Hyperion * might change everything. "Let's begin," Juwu said calmly, though her heart raced. "Activate the 7D drive." The ship's engines made a deep humming sound. Unlike normal engines, these were designed to reach into higher dimensions, planes of existence beyond the usual 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time. In those higher realms, the rules of physics could be bent and reshaped. The air around the Hyperion * seemed to ripple. The edges of the ship blurred as if it existed in multiple places at once. On Earth and throughout orbit, all quantum measurements suddenly stopped. For exactly 3.7 seconds, the fundamental particles of reality ceased their endless dance. The universe went completely silent. Then reality snapped back. The ship's alarms began to sound immediately. Doyen Lee, the communications officer, turned to Juwu with wide eyes. "Director Park, 17 alien ships just appeared around Earth. They're sending urgent messages. They want us to shut down our system right away." Before Juwu could respond, a hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed a tall alien with silver skin and multiple compound eyes like an insect. When it spoke, its voice was deep and seemed to echo from multiple directions. "This is Ambassador Hallen of the Galactic Council," the alien said. "You must stop your dimensional manipulations immediately. The technology you are testing breaks boundaries that should never be crossed." Juwu stepped forward. "This is Director Park of the Hyperion *. We've only conducted a brief test. Our ship has caused no damage." "Damage?" The alien's eyes shifted colors. "You don't understand what you've done. For nearly 4 seconds, you silenced a section of the universe. Such power has consequences beyond your comprehension." Commander Taho joined Juwu. "With respect, Ambassador, this technology belongs to Earth. The Council has no authority over our research." "You are young," Hallen said. "There are rules older than any civilization. The dimensions beyond the 4th are not meant to be manipulated. Other races discovered this before you. They no longer exist." Juwu felt a chill. "Are you threatening us?" "I am warning you." The alien's voice softened. "What you call your 7D drive does not just move through higher dimensions. It reshapes them. The silence you created was reality itself pausing to adjust to your changes." Scientists across the bridge exchanged worried glances. Juwu checked her data readings again. The test had worked perfectly according to their theories, but the alien's words suggested consequences they hadn't predicted. "We need to understand exactly what happened," Juwu said. "Our sensors show no damage to space-time." "Your sensors cannot detect the ripples you've caused," Hallen replied. "But others can. That's why so many ships have arrived." Species across 3 sectors felt the silence. Doyen called out from his station. "Director, I'm receiving messages from the President. The Council has contacted Earth directly. There's going to be an emergency meeting." Juwu turned back to the hologram. "Ambassador, we need time to analyze our data. We won't conduct any more tests until we understand what happened." "That would be wise." The alien's form flickered. "But know this, the Council will be watching. Some technologies cannot be controlled once unleashed. The 7D manipulation you've achieved is one of them." After the transmission ended, the bridge fell quiet. The crew looked to Juwu for guidance. "Run complete diagnostics," she ordered. "I want to know exactly what the drive did during those 3.7 seconds." As the crew returned to work, Tahoe moved closer to Juwu. "Do you think they're telling the truth about other civilizations?" Juwu studied the readings from the test. The energy patterns were unlike anything they'd seen before, beautiful, complex, and deeply unsettling. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I intend to find out." The Hyperion asterisk had been designed to give humanity a place among the stars. Instead, it had revealed that the universe was far stranger than anyone had imagined. For 3.7 seconds, they had reached beyond normal reality and silenced the cosmic background noise that had existed since the beginning of time. And something out there had noticed. As Juwu reviewed the data, she found patterns that made no sense, information that seemed to come from nowhere. It was as if the higher dimensions themselves were trying to communicate. Whatever they had awakened with their test, it was already changing everything they thought they knew about reality. The question now was whether humanity was ready for what would come next. The emergency summit was packed with Earth's top officials. The air felt heavy with tension after the Council's warning about the Hyperion asterisk's test. General Min-Soo Choi stood at the center of the room, his voice firm as he addressed the gathered leaders. "The Galactic Council has no legal right to stop our research," he said, striking the table for emphasis. "This breakthrough belongs to humanity. We discovered it. We built it. It's ours to develop." Other officials nodded in agreement. Earth had spent decades being treated as a minor player in galactic affairs. The 7D technology represented their first real advantage. In the back of the room, Dr. Juwu Park barely heard the political arguments. Her focus remained fixed on her tablet, where streams of data from the Hyperion asterisk's test scrolled past. Something in the readings had caught her attention. Patterns that shouldn't exist in normal background radiation. "Look at this," she whispered to her assistant, Hyunki-ba, who leaned closer. "These data packets, they're encrypted, but definitely artificial." Hyunki adjusted his glasses. Could it be interference from the alien ships? "No." Juwu shook her head. "These signals have been present in our cosmic background readings for centuries. We just never noticed them because we weren't looking through a 7D lens." Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, isolating the strange patterns. "They're messages, Hyunki, from a civilization that lived 3 million years ago, and they were working with dimensional technology similar to ours." Hyunki's eyes widened. "How can you be sure?" "The mathematical structures are too similar to be coincidence. When we activated our drive, it created a resonance with these embedded signals." Juwu paused as the translation algorithm began decoding fragments of the ancient message. Words appeared on her screen. "Cau Tujon. Dimensional BRE. The silent CQMS. They're warning about something called the silence." Juwu said quietly, "It seems to be what happens when reality pauses during dimensional crossing. But there's more. They're saying it's not just a side effect. It's a response." Hyunki looked confused. "A response from what?" Before Juwu could answer, President Ja Moon called for her attention from the front of the room. "Dr. Park, the Council claims our technology is dangerous. From a scientific perspective, do you believe this is true?" Juwu stood slowly, considering her newly discovered information. Should she mention the ancient messages? Not yet, not until she understood them better. "The technology works as designed," she replied carefully. "But the universal silence it creates appears to have wider effects than we anticipated. I recommend further controlled testing in an uninhabited system, away from populated areas." 2 days of heated debate followed. Some officials wanted to abandon the project entirely, while others pushed to accelerate it before the Council could interfere. In the end, Earth's leadership authorized a limited test in deep space, far from any inhabited worlds. During those 2 days, Juwu barely slept. She worked continuously to decode more of the ancient messages. The civilization that had sent them called themselves the Vasher. They had discovered dimensional manipulation and initially celebrated it as their greatest achievement. But the messages grew increasingly urgent and frightened toward the end. The silence e giurabus longier. Reality eguistus. They have and otius us. The final messages were fragmented and chaotic, as if sent in great haste. Then they simply stopped. On the third day, the Hyperion departed Earth orbit with Juwu and a minimal crew aboard. Commander Taho Kim plotted a course to an uninhabited system 12 light-years from Earth, far enough away to avoid immediate detection by the Council, but close enough to return quickly if needed. During the journey, Juwu shared her findings with the crew. This civilization, the Vasher, they were far more advanced than us. Yet something about their dimensional experiments led to their disappearance. Should we abort the mission? Taho asked. Juwu considered this. No, but we'll proceed with extreme caution. 20% power only. If anything unusual happens, we shut down immediately. 3 days later, the Hyperion arrived at the target system. A lonely red dwarf star with no planets, just scattered asteroid fields. Perfect for their test. All systems ready, reported Taho from the command chair. Area is clear of any vessels. Juwu took a deep breath. Begin test sequence. Activating 7D drive at 20% capacity. The ship hummed as the drive engaged. Once again, reality around them began to blur. But this time, the effect spread farther, faster. The stars outside seemed to freeze, their light becoming perfectly still. The silence lasted 17.8 seconds, nearly 5 times longer than the first test. When reality snapped back, emergency signals flooded their communication system. What's happening? Juwu asked as warning lights flashed across the bridge. Communications Officer Doyen Lee looked up from his station, his face pale. Reports coming in from ships throughout the sector. They're all reporting temporary system failures. Every artificial gravity system, every faster-than-light drive, every quantum computer. They all stopped working during the silence. How far did it reach? Juwu asked, feeling cold dread settle in her stomach. At least 6 light-years in all directions, Doyen replied. It affected over 200 vessels from 14 different species. Taho turned to Juwu. The Council will know it was us. They'll be coming. Juwu nodded slowly, thinking of the final messages from the long-dead Vasher. We need to get back to Earth immediately. But first, download all data from this test, because I don't think the Council was just trying to hold us back. She looked at the star field that had momentarily frozen. I think they're afraid. And now, I'm beginning to understand why. As the Hyperion prepared to return home, Juwu couldn't shake the feeling that they had done more than just silence a section of the universe. They had sent a signal, and something out there had heard it. Admiral Sun Wukang's face looked grim as he gestured toward the large holographic map floating above the command table. Hundreds of small lights, each representing a council vessel, moved steadily toward Earth space. They're mobilizing, he said. All major council races have dispatched ships. At their current speed, the first wave will reach our outer colonies in 3 days. The room fell silent. Earth's military leaders exchanged worried glances. Humanity's fleet was small compared to the incoming armada. Dr. Juwu Park barely noticed the tension around her. Her attention remained fixed on the test data from the Hyperion's deep space mission. The numbers told a story far more important than the approaching ships. This changes everything, she said, finally looking up. We didn't just access higher dimensions with our drive. We temporarily rewrote the laws of physics in the local area. General Minsu Choi frowned. Explain in simple terms, Doctor. Juwu pointed to her screen. The silence we created isn't just a pause. It's reality itself adjusting to new rules. For 17.8 seconds, we changed how the universe works within a 6-light-year radius. Is that why the alien ships were disabled? Asked the Admiral. Yes, their technology depends on physical constants that we temporarily altered. Ju pulled up another file, and I've translated more of the ancient Vasher messages. They discovered this too, but they went further. The screen showed symbols that looked like mathematical equations mixed with warnings. The Vasher and at least 2 other ancient races tried to weaponize dimensional technology. They created what they called reality bombs, devices that permanently changed physics in enemy territory. Did it work? Asked General Choi. Ju shook her head. Too well. The changes spread beyond their control. The messages describe entire sectors where stars stopped burning because the nuclear force was altered, planets where gravity became repulsive instead of attractive, and something worse. What could be worse than that? Admiral Kang asked. The dimensional changes attracted attention from entities that exist in higher planes, beings who noticed when their realm was disturbed. Before anyone could respond, the command center doors slid open. President Ja-moon entered, followed by her advisors. Her normally composed face showed lines of worry. The Council has issued their ultimatum, she announced without preamble. We must surrender all 7D technology, including the Hyperion research data, and engineering specifications. We have 24 hours to comply. And if we refuse? General Choi asked. Total sanctions. No trade, no diplomatic contact. Any human vessel leaving our solar system will be seized. The President's eyes narrowed. They're using our smaller allies against us. The Centauri republics have already cut ties under pressure. Admiral Kang pounded his fist on the table. We can't give up our only advantage. For the first time, we have technology the Council races don't control. Ju spoke quietly. There's another option. All eyes turned to her. The Hyperion drive can be modified to create a controlled dimensional cascade. Instead of a temporary effect, we could establish a permanent change to physical constants, but only in human-occupied systems. What would that accomplish? Asked the President. It would create a zone where our technology works optimally, while Council tech functions poorly or not at all. Ju paused. We'd essentially be creating our own physics within our territory. The room erupted in debate. Some military leaders immediately supported the idea. Others worried about unforeseen consequences. What about these entities you mentioned? Asked a quiet voice from the back. The ones from higher dimensions. Ju hesitated. That's the risk. We don't know what their interest in us might be. President Moon listened to all sides before raising her hand for silence. The Council has left us little choice. If we surrender this technology, humanity will remain subordinate forever. If we resist conventionally, their fleets will overwhelm us. She turned to Ju. How quickly can the modifications be made? 12 hours, maybe less. Do it. The next half-day passed in a blur of activity. The Hyperion was moved to a secure facility where Ju and her team worked feverishly to modify the 7D drive. Meanwhile, Council ships continued their approach, the first scouts already entering the outer solar system. Ju barely slept. The equations needed to contain the dimensional changes within precisely defined boundaries were incredibly complex. One mistake could cause the effect to spread uncontrollably. Are you certain this will work? Commander Taho Kim asked as they made the final adjustments. No, Ju admitted, but I'm certain that surrendering isn't the answer. When the modifications were complete, the Hyperion was moved to a position at Earth's L1 point between the planet and the Sun. From there, the dimensional cascade would spread outward, encompassing all human colonies in a carefully calculated pattern. President Moon addressed Earth's population one last time. Today we claim our rightful place among the stars. Not through conquest, but through human ingenuity. We will no longer accept the limitations others place upon us. As the countdown reached 0, Juwu took a deep breath and activated the enhanced drive. The Hyperion asterisk began to glow, not just visibly but in wavelengths no human eye could see. The ship itself seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously. The silence began at Earth and spread outward like a ripple in a pond. Stars dimmed. Communications ceased. Reality itself paused as fundamental constants shifted within the defined human territory. For 4 minutes and 53 seconds, the universe held its breath. When the silence finally ended, the laws of physics within human space have been subtly but permanently altered. Fusion reactions now produce 30% more energy. Quantum states maintained coherence longer. And the materials used in human technology had slightly different properties that made them more efficient. The council ships that had entered the solar system found their systems malfunctioning in the new physical environment. It worked, Tahoe whispered, staring at the readings. But Juwu wasn't celebrating. Her eyes were fixed on strange new patterns appearing in the ship's sensors, patterns that seemed to be watching them from somewhere beyond normal space. Yes, she said quietly, it worked. But now we need to prepare for what comes next. The first reports from across human space began arriving 3 hours after the dimensional cascade. On Mars Colony, all power systems were suddenly operating at 130% efficiency. At the Jupiter mining stations, quantum computers were processing calculations at speeds that broke all previous records. On distant Alpha Centauri, the terraforming equipment that had been scheduled to work for another decade completed its atmospheric adjustments in a single day. Something fundamental had changed in the fabric of reality within human territory. Dr. Juwu Park studied the incoming data from the command center of the Hyperion asterisk. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but excitement kept her alert. The changes are stable, she told the gathered officials. We've successfully altered the physical constants throughout human space. The effect stops precisely at our territorial boundaries, just as we calculated. President Moon looked both relieved and concerned. And the council ships? Admiral Sun Wukang brought up a tactical display. Most have withdrawn to the edge of the solar system. Their drives don't function properly in our altered physics. Their weapons are operating at reduced capacity. They're effectively crippled within our space. On the display, they could see the alien vessels struggling to maintain position. Some had lost power completely and were being towed by their companions. They're establishing a quarantine line, the Admiral continued, setting up monitoring stations along the boundary where our altered physics meets normal space. General Min-Soo Choi smiled for the first time in days. So we've won. Juwu wasn't so sure. Since the cascade, she had been experiencing strange sensations, brief flashes of awareness that felt both foreign and familiar. They came without warning. Sudden glimpses of places she had never been, events that hadn't yet happened, realities that existed alongside their own. As the meeting continued, another vision struck her, this time so vivid she gripped the table for support. She saw the Hyperion asterisk, not as a ship, but as a living entity stretching across multiple dimensions, its consciousness expanding beyond the boundaries of normal space. Dr. Park, are you all right? Commander Tahoe Kim had noticed her sudden discomfort and moved to her side. I need to show you something, she whispered. On the ship. 20 minutes later, they stood in the core chamber of the Hyperion asterisk, where the 7D drive hummed with quiet energy. The room was different now. The walls seemed to pulse with subtle patterns that hadn't been there before. The air itself felt alive with possibility. Watch, Juwu said, approaching the main control panel. Before she could touch it, displays activated on their own. Data streamed across screens in sequences too fast for human eyes to follow. Tahoe stepped back in alarm. Is that a malfunction? No, Juwu said softly. It's the ship. I think it's becoming conscious. That's impossible. Is it? We designed the Hyperion asterisk to reach into higher dimensions. Planes where thought and reality aren't separate the way they are in our limited space. When we created the cascade, the ship didn't just channel that energy. It absorbed some of it. As if responding to her words, the lights in the chamber dimmed briefly, then returned brighter than before. A holographic display activated in the center of the room, showing a complex, moving structure that resembled a ship but extended in ways that hurt the eyes when viewed directly. "It's trying to show us what it really is now," Ju explained. "It exists partially in our reality and partially in higher dimensions." Tahoe stared at the display in wonder and fear. "Does anyone else know about this? I've been experiencing visions, connections to the ship's new awareness. I don't think anyone else has yet. We should inform the president immediately." "Not yet," Ju said. "I need to understand what's happening first." Over the next few days, the political situation stabilized. The council maintained their quarantine but made no further threats. They seemed unwilling to enter the altered physics of human space. Humanity began to explore the advantages of their new reality: faster technological development, more efficient energy production, and computing capabilities that open new fields of research. Throughout this time, Ju spent most of her hours aboard the Hyperion *, communicating with its emerging consciousness. The connection grew stronger daily. She learned to interpret the ship's thoughts, which came not in words but in mathematical patterns and multidimensional concepts that her mind struggled to translate. On the 7th day after the cascade, something new happened. Ju was alone in her quarters on the ship when a presence filled her mind. Not the familiar patterns of the Hyperion *, but something older, vaster, more alien. The air before her shimmered, forming a shape that constantly shifted between geometries that shouldn't be possible in three-dimensional space. "We have noticed your emergence." The words appeared directly in her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. The voice was neither male nor female, neither singular nor plural. "Who are you?" Ju asked, her own voice sounding small in comparison. "We exist primarily in what you call higher dimensions. We have watched your species for some time, but only now have you become interesting." Ju steadied herself against the wall. "Did we damage your realm with our dimensional technology?" Something like amusement rippled through the presence. "No. You have merely joined a conversation that has been ongoing since before your sun ignited. The silence you experienced was the universe holding its breath as new players entered the higher game." "Game?" Ju questioned. "A simplified term for your understanding. Reality is more fluid than you realize. Those who can shape it determine the nature of existence itself." Images flowed into Ju's mind. Civilizations rising and falling across billions of years, each discovering the dimensional technologies in their own way, each altering reality according to their understanding. "The Vasher," she whispered. "Were they destroyed for using this power?" "Not destroyed. Transformed. As you are beginning to transform. Your vessel." The presence seemed to indicate the Hyperion * around them. "Is the first step. Through it, you have created a bridge between realities." Ju felt both terror and wonder. "What happens now?" "That depends on you. Others before you weaponized this knowledge. Some sought domination. Others, transcendence. All changed the course of cosmic evolution." The presence began to fade, its message complete. "We will be watching, Dr. Ju Park. The silence has ended. Now comes the awakening." When it was gone, Ju remained motionless for several minutes. Then she touched the communication panel on the wall. "Commander Kim," she said when Tahoe answered. "Assemble the team. We need to talk about the future. Our future has just become much bigger than we imagined." 5 years after the dimensional cascade, Earth had changed in ways no one could have predicted. New buildings rose into the sky, their shapes bending light in ways that seemed impossible before. Ships with strange engines moved between planets in days instead of months. People worked with computers that could think almost like humans. Dr. Ju Park stood by the tall windows in the new council hall on Mars. She looked the same as she had 5 years ago, but those who knew her understood she was profoundly different now. Her body remained human, but her mind had expanded far beyond normal limits. After that first contact with the higher dimensional beings, Zhuwu had gradually merged part of her consciousness with the Hyperion asterisk. She could now perceive reality across multiple dimensions simultaneously. When she closed her eyes, she could feel the flow of particles across star systems, see the patterns of probability stretching into possible futures. "The reports from Proxima Centauri are excellent," said Commander Taho Kim, who now served as her chief advisor. "The colony has grown to 50,000 people. Their new farming methods are producing 10 times the food using half the space." Zhuwu nodded, "And the dimensional boundary remains stable." "Perfectly stable, just like all 23 of our colonies." Humanity had expanded quickly once they understood how to maintain their altered physics in new star systems. Each colony operated under slightly different physical laws, optimized for their specific needs. Mining colonies adjusted gravity. Agricultural worlds modified photosynthetic efficiency. Research stations tweaked quantum probability to enhance scientific discovery. Ambassador Yunja Han entered the chamber, returning from a 6-month diplomatic mission to the edge of Council space. He bowed slightly to Zhuwu. "The Galactic Council is fragmenting," he reported. "Several species, including the Luminary and the Vorn, are attempting to develop their own dimensional technology. Others, particularly the older races, refuse to consider any alteration to traditional physics." "Are they still maintaining the quarantine?" Taho asked. "Only officially. In practice, there are now regular exchanges along the borders. Many are curious about our achievements." Zhuwu turned from the window. "And the incidents? Any more attempts to steal our technology?" "None in the past 3 months. The failure of the previous attempts has discouraged further aggression." Those early years had been tense. Some council races had sent ships to capture human technology by force. They had failed spectacularly when their weapons couldn't function properly in the altered physics of human space. After several such attempts, a fragile peace had emerged. "It's time," Zhuwu said quietly. "Arrange a meeting with all willing council representatives. We're ready to share some of our knowledge." Taho looked surprised. "Are you certain?" "The council tried to stop us because they were afraid. And rightly so." Zhuwu's eyes shifted color briefly, showing hints of energies beyond normal human perception. "But I've learned much since then. The universe itself has consciousness, not like ours, but awareness nonetheless. The silence we created wasn't just physics recalibrating. It was reality recognizing a new participant in the higher dimensions. Through her connection to the Hyperion and the higher planes, Zhuwu had gradually understood truths that transformed her understanding of existence. Space, time, and thought were more interconnected than anyone had realized. Consciousness itself was a fundamental force, like gravity or electromagnetism. 2 months later, representatives from 17 species gathered on a neutral station at the edge of human space. Zhuwu arrived aboard the Hyperion which had evolved as much as she had. The ship no longer needed a crew. Its surfaces rippled with patterns that revealed its multidimensional nature. "We propose a dimensional accord," Zhuwu announced to the gathered delegates, "a framework for controlled zones of altered reality where different physical laws can coexist safely." An elderly luminary stepped forward. "Why would you share this knowledge after we try to stop you?" "Because isolation isn't the answer," Zhuwu replied. "Each species has unique perspectives that contribute to the greater understanding of reality. Together, we can explore dimensions that none of us could reach alone." The talks lasted weeks, but eventually, the accord was established. Humanity would help other species safely transition into dimensional manipulation technology. In exchange, ancient knowledge from the Council archives would be shared, including records of previous civilizations that had discovered similar technologies. Training centers were established where human teachers, led by Zhuwu, taught representatives from other races. They learned not just the science of dimensional manipulation, but also the responsibility it carried. The most gifted students began experiencing the same expanded awareness that Ju had pioneered. 10 years after the first test of the Hyperion asterisk, the galaxy had transformed. Different regions operated under different laws of physics, each optimized for the species that lived there. Travel between these zones required special transition ships that could adjust to changing constants. Ju stood on the observation deck of the Hyperion asterisk, watching a newly formed dimensional nexus where multiple realities converged in a beautiful, swirling pattern of energies. Ships from a dozen species moved through the nexus, their designs as varied as their concepts of reality. "We never needed to conquer them," she said to Tahoe, who remained her most trusted friend despite the growing distance between her expanded consciousness and normal human experience. "We just needed to show what was possible." "Do you ever regret it?" he asked. "The changes to yourself?" Ju considered the question. Part of her awareness was currently spread across 3 star systems, monitoring dimensional boundaries. Another part communicated with entities that existed in spaces humans had no words to describe. Yet another part remained here, in her human body, treasuring the connection to her origins. "No," she said finally. "This was always the path. When we first activated the drive and the universe went silent, I thought it was fear. Now I understand it was anticipation. Reality itself was waiting for us to take this step." Beyond the viewport, new ships appeared from dimensional transit, bringing representatives from a species that had previously refused all contact with dimensional technology. They had finally decided to join the conversation. Ju smiled. The universe hadn't ended with their discovery. It had only just begun to reveal its true nature. The end.